Today we are joined by colors from many of your favorite comics, such as Nightwing's Rebirth ongoing, the iconic Hulk run known for Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, some Iron Man, and with his colors gracing the pages of the upcoming and highly anticipated mini, The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, it's Chris Sotomayor.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. We have spoken before. We were at a convention together.
Yes.
You and I got to have dinner, but Jake had to go to a, what was that, a cosplay thing?
Yeah, we had a female friend who did not want to go alone.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Our first question is something we've talked about before, but I think it's honestly the lifeblood of this show. It's what keeps us going. So, what's your favorite sandwich?
Oh, I'm a burger guy. I love burgers, but I gotta say, as far as like a sub goes, I like a nice meatball hero.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was Jimmy Palmiotti's too.
Yeah.
And you said hero as well. It's okay. I'll let you off with that. Strictly hoagies down here.
Yeah. Oh, hoagies. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you explain a little bit about what you do in case listeners don't know what it means to be a colorist?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good place to start. All right. So what I do is I get black and white copies of the artwork digitally from whatever publisher I'm working with, whatever editor. I take a look at it, try to figure out more or less what I want it to look like in color, and then I color it trying to use really just simple painting techniques and ideologies like color theory and depth and spatial relationships, things like that, trying to tell the story through the use of color. And I usually don't have enough time to do it, but I power through.
How long does it normally take to color a page?
That's actually been a really big debate amongst freelance artists and editors right now, because there is a belief amongst a lot of publishers and editors that you should be able to color a whole 20 or 22 page book in about 3 days. And that's just, it's not realistic and sustainable.
That sounds difficult.
It can be. Listen, I've been doing this for a while. So,
Yeah.
I know a lot of shortcuts and stuff. I know how to economize storytelling and economize some of my techniques and approaches. So I get it. If I'm really trying to make a deadline, I can do, like 8, 10, 12 some odd pages in a day. They may not all be my best pages. None of them may be my best pages. The book will get done. It won't look like shit, but it won't be a masterpiece either. It's not going to win an Eisner. But right now we're kind of the average is looking at about 3, maybe 4 pages a day. Like I said, 3, 4 is comfortable for me. I like that pace. I think a lot of colorists like that pace. Some, skew a little less, skew a little more. That's fine. I usually try to, depending on how many books I'm doing in a month or a week, I try to do about 4, maybe 5 pages a day, but I like 3 pages. I can do 3 really good pages a day. I can do 4 good pages a day. I can do 5 good pages a day. 6, they start to get about decent, 6 to 8. You get in that range.
You're pushing it.
Yeah. And maybe it's just because I try to only work office hours, like, 9 to 6 or something.
That's fair.
Yeah. If I put in a couple more hours, I could squeeze out another couple of pages. It's not a big deal. Sometimes I'll do that at night. Usually nighttime, I wind up in front of the computer doing like administrative stuff because I run a studio. So I'm doing a lot of file management at night, writing emails, checking invoices, things like that, all that fun stuff. And I try to just reserve the actual color work for the day, for the business day. So
wow. So a little bit of work-life balance there too. It's always nice. That's something I always like hearing, especially in this industry.
Well, one of the things I like about this job is that I can work from home. So I don't miss the kids' stuff. I don't miss their concerts. I don't miss their sports stuff.
Mhm.
I don't miss any of the stuff that they do on the weekends. You know, if they need to go to a birthday party, I can take them to a birthday party. I mean, my kids are a little older now, but, you know, I can still spend time with the kids, and I still see my wife because my wife's here too. She works from home also. And we actually get along really well, and we make it work. And
That is very good.
yeah.
And
There are times we don't even see each other throughout the day because we're both just so busy. So.
And you said you run a studio. So do you like in your house? Do you have a room specific for working for you?
I do. I have my office in the house. Decent size. You know, lots of toys and artwork and shit and comics and whatnot.
Good shit.
Yeah.
It's just a blank white room. There's nothing in there.
They're padded.
Oh yeah, it should be. I've got one wall dedicated to just like stuff that my kids have drawn and, you know, photos of them, and then the other walls are just like comic art and toys and statues and stuff. But the studio, in the sense of you know what it is, it's more like my office is a satellite office, and the guys that I work with, they're kind of West Coast and Florida and you know, things like that. So they're kind of all over. I've got about three dedicated guys who work with me all the time. I've got a few flatters who work with me all the time, very integral. I've got a couple of inkers I like to work with, a couple of pencilers I like to work with from time to time. I call them in for jobs whenever the need arises, and it's something I can't do on my own for whatever reason. But yeah, we do a fair amount of stuff, and they're kind of all over the place. And I like that they cover different time zones too, so I can, you know, meet clients' needs like that.
Wow. Yeah, you really are. I was saying it to you at dinner that you're like the big deal. You're the head honcho.
No one's ever called me that before. I've never felt like a head honcho. I've never felt like an adult. So,
yeah, I think that's the goal, though, not to feel like an adult.
Yeah, I guess.
So, who is your go-to DC character? So, say you pick up a book and you see them in it, you're just ecstatic.
Nightwing.
All right.
Love Nightwing.
You know,
it's Nightwing, Batman, Green Lantern, kind of in that order. Then I like the Kirby creations, like New Gods, Demons, stuff like that. But yeah, Nightwing's the guy. If I see Nightwing in a book, you know, it piques my interest.
Same.
Any particular reason for Nightwing?
I like those street level heroes. I like that. I mean, I grew up watching the old Batman show and the Ruby Spears cartoons and the Filmation cartoons and all that stuff. So whenever like Robin was in something, or, you know, Batman and Robin, like Scooby-Doo, you know, I'm a kid in New York, and there's this other kid who gets to hang out with Batman, and he fights crime, and he fights pretty good. And, you know, he can kick ass. And he's like close to my age. So I kind of connected with that right away early on. And I dug that. And although he didn't really, he kind of went toe to toe with Bruce Lee. So, you know, I dug that too. And I just kind of grew up with Robin, and then the Protector, and then Nightwing. So, you know, that was my thing.
Nice.
How did you get into the industry?
I've got a two-pronged story. One that kind of sorry, that's my fax. I actually have a fax.
You have a fax machine?
I have a fax.
Does this still exist?
Because of my accountant, I have a fax.
Wow.
Yeah. So one part of the story involves a near felony. The other part of the story is not quite stalking. So the first part of the story is I'm senior in high school. I decided, you know, this is really what I want to do after being derailed by certain family members. You know, that I wanted to just be in comics because that's what made me happy. I wanted to draw and, you know, be in comics in some form. So I wanted to do some research on it, throughout the whole time in high school. What kind of jobs were available? What do you need to get started in a career? Like I said, grew up in New York, hanging out with a friend of mine, Angel. We're in the village, Greenwich Village. Take the 6 train up, come to the stop where the Marvel Comics offices are, and we just decided to go up. This was after hours, not the smartest thing, but we go up. I know where the office is because I'm a big fan of Marvel Age magazine. I know what floor the office is. I know what floor the mailroom is, just from reading stuff like that. Go up. I don't see anybody. My friend Angel, he doesn't see anybody. We decide we're just going to walk in. And then that's when I felt the security guard's hand on my collar. He stopped me. We spoke a little bit. I told him I was a big fan, just wanted to see what was going on, just look around a little bit. And instead of calling the cops, he actually brought me into the back, into the bullpen. And I got to hang out as long as I was quiet and didn't interrupt anyone. Again, this was after hours. This was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. But I got to hang out for a while and watch Jimmy Palmiotti and Michael Baer and Mark Teixeira all work on an issue of Ghost Rider, which was very cool. It was due the next day, so they were, jamming on pages and panels here and there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I came out of that experience with a tour of the office and a better understanding of what the job was. I got all my questions answered by a gentleman named George Roberts, who was in production at the time and hanging out there late at night. With Jimmy and Mike and Tex. And yeah, that was a great experience because it opened my eyes to the idea of, just asking questions and getting answers and people being approachable, and especially artists and comics, and seeing what they do and how they do it while they're doing it. That was super eye-opening to me because at that point, it wasn't anything I'd ever witnessed before. So after I got out of high school, the second part of the story, went to college, went to art school, SVA in New York. Had a part-time job because, you need money to go to school. If you have no money, they don't let you go. So I had a part-time job at a supermarket. I found out that Dennis Cowan used to shop there. And I wasn't right away like all up in his face first time I saw him. But, a couple of times he was in there. And I said, "Hey, you're Dennis Cowan, right?" And I introduced myself. And he was doing a signing at this comic shop up the block. And I asked if I could talk to him, maybe there, or if he used assistance at all or anything like that. And he was very nice to me, way nicer than he needed to be. And he told me, "Yeah, I'm doing this signing. Once you come up, we'll talk there. I got someone I'd like you to meet." And he introduced me at the signing to his friend and business partner, Michael Davis, whom he was forming Milestone with at the time. They had finished putting the Bible together at this point. They'd gotten the characters worked out. They were starting production on books. I got to meet Michael Davis. Michael took me under his wing. I worked in Michael's studio for a while, interning first, then climbed my way up to a studio manager. And I got to really understand the ins and outs and some more intricate details of not just comic art and illustration, but also the business side, which a lot of people don't really get that kind of education, especially that young. I'm like, 19, 20 at this point? So that was a great experience. I learned a lot. And it came at a great time because I ran out of money to go to art school. So I had to supplement my education with something, and Michael's studio and his generosity are really what helped me get to the point that I needed to be in order to feasibly, pursue this as a career. So I have I have a really strong place in my heart for Michael Davis, also for Dennis, for making that introduction. And that really jump-started everything. Michael, after a while, left to form another thing. He brought me on as an editor. And using those contexts when it was time to go freelance, that really helped a lot. And then I started to do freelance coloring work Right around 1996 was when I started doing freelance coloring work for Disney Adventures magazine and Marvel Comics at the same time. And then it's been that ever since.
Wow. Yeah.
I know, that's a mouthful.
It's a great story. It always makes me so happy to hear how kind everyone is in the industry, for the most part, that they're willing to help each other, and it's more of like collaboration than dog eat dog.
Yeah, I find mentorship is really something. I mean, it's something I appreciated when I was coming up, and I got a lot from those experiences. And it's a shame that there's not more of that today. It's so beneficial and can be so helpful to nurturing artists and, nurturing them into not just artists, but as business people also. Just that education and being able to share stories in a space where it's okay to admit like you fucked something up, or something you learned from, or hey, don't work with this guy, or hey, these are really great people to work with, or don't price yourself too low, things like that. Those are the things you learn with mentorship, with someone who you can talk to and bounce ideas off of, whether it's studio mates or you're working as an intern in someone's studio, or even just, peers talking to each other on the phone. A lot of that dialogue, it can be really important and helpful to grow, you as a business and as an artist and as an industry.
Wow. It's just super interesting that like the mentorship kind of gives you the toolbox to succeed. When people who are artists learn however they learn, but like the other side of it, like the business and all that stuff, having someone to work with to learn, that's actually super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got another hard one for you.
All right.
So
I'll try not to drone on so long.
No, that story was incredible. So if someone picks up one of your works, what is the color that you think you do best with? It's like, what's your most versatile in the palette, and just like, what is your favorite to work with?
I get on these jags where I kind of prefer one color over others for a stretch, or even like one tool or one brush over others for a stretch. And it varies from time to time. Sometimes it's like an orange. Like when I was doing Planet Hulk, I was leaning a lot towards orange because the Hulk was the only green thing in those books. And we did that purposefully. So that was one of the conversations that Greg Pak and I had very early on with that book, was to make the Hulk seem alien. So he was the only green thing up until he started influencing the planet, and then you started seeing some of that green take over. But like during that time, yeah, like oranges were really my thing. And I think now I'm probably leaning more towards greens and teals. I'm getting a kick out of those right now. I just kind of mixed a bunch of really nice teals and greens. So I'm kind of leaning on that right now.
Oh. All right. Knowing that you worked with Bill and Dennis Cowan, what do you think is the significance of knowing the inker, penciler is to your work? Can you do something more attuned to what they're into so it meshes together rather well? Or does the art kind of give you everything you need without needing another person's style?
There are some artists where I think whatever's there can really dictate what it should look like towards the end, at least in my head. And since it's in my head, it's probably not always correct. But I will say that communication in this chain of comic book production is very key. Whether it's communicating with editors or writers or pencilers or inkers. When you have a combo like Dennis and Bill Sienkiewicz, that's fucking magic. I gotta tell you. Dennis just looks so amazing with Bill, and you can still see Dennis under all of that Bill, but Bill just what Bill does is transformative, and it elevates everything. And it also, it's a lot of fucking pressure for me, because I've got to keep up. you got like the question. It's Jeff Lemire, Dennis Cowan, Bill Sienkiewicz, and then me. Like, really? Like I gotta make sure that I'm just trying to stay with them. I'm trying to not fall behind. I'm trying to make sure that I'm in step with those guys. So being able to talk to them, being able to talk to anyone in the chain is super helpful, and is just going to lead to a more cohesive thing at the end, a cohesive work, like the New Mutants job that I did with Bill and Chris Claremont. Mm-hmm. I had a certain approach when I got the first few pages in, and it was a super short deadline for a 30-page book. But I got the first couple of pages in. I worked them up. I sent them off, and it's Bill, and I love Bill. I always have. I've always loved his work. Big influence on not just me, but I got to say probably most of the comic book industry in some way. But what I worked up initially was not, it was fine. It wasn't something I was happy with right out the gate. So I was more than willing to hear, feedback from editorial or from Bill or even Chris or anyone at that point, because I wanted to see, I felt like I was missing a thing, like something there wasn't quite working. A couple of pages worked out better than I thought, but I wasn't sure how far to lean into that. And some other pages didn't lean in enough, and I wasn't sure about those in some ways. And Bill chimed in, and it was so simple. Like, his direction was, it should look like a dream state. And I was like, fuck, I got it. And then it clicked, and then I zoomed through the whole thing in like 3 days, and it just worked. Like, in my head, it worked. And then as I sent the pages to Bill, Bill would give me his feedback on each batch of pages, and he'd give me his blessings on pages. And it was the best, smoothest experience I've had professionally. Just, I just needed that nudge, that little thing. And then it just pushed me right along. And, I've got my Jimi Hendrix illustrated book open on my desk. And, I look at that. Thinking of some of the other stuff that Bill did, looking at his New Mutant stuff, and everything just kind of trucked right along. It was so awesome to work on that. Yeah, it's like butter.
I don't think Jake has gotten to read that one shot yet, but like the colors on Magic that you did, holy! I told you this. I was just like, holy shit! My mouth dropped.
I saw that page and I flipped out as soon as I saw it. It was just like, it was Bill on New Mutants, and it's Magic, and it's everything I grew up with. Yeah,
it's like the dynamic duo. Like New Mutants, like I love X-Men, but like New Mutants was like, whew, but your colors blew it out, knocked it out of the park.
Thank you. All
right, I'll give you an easy one to hit.
Okay.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. I would like to say video games, but my son hogs the freaking Xbox, so I can't play video games. No, I just like to chill and watch movies and, watch some dumb shows and just hang with the kids. Or I like to hang with the kids, even though I got 3 kids. 2 of them are, older, and my son's 13. He's the youngest. He still likes to hang out with dad, so we hang out.
You got to get that as long as you can.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to that. Aside from that, I do stupid shit. Like sometimes I'll work with a luchador mask on.
By yourself?
Yeah. I'll sit in my office and I have 2 luchador masks. One's green and black and with white piping, and the other one is black and red with yellow piping. And sometimes I'll sit and I'm in a mood. I know.
I'm gonna start if you own a luchador's mask, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's kind of that's what I think. If you have it, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. I think I'd get a Bane mask.
And if you don't have one, what's wrong with you?
Right. Exactly.
There is a lot of tangent, but there's like a lot of cool comic book inspired luchador masks out there. I've seen some beautiful Cyclops ones, but it's just now I'll never not look at one of your pages and be like, oh, he probably drew this in a mask.
There was a stretch. I had just gotten the black one, and there was a stretch for like a good 3-day weekend, I think, where I was drawing commissions in the mask. And just sitting in the living room with my Strathmore pad, just drawing these commissions, and I had a mask on, and my kids were like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I was mowing the lawn in the mask. I have pictures of that. My son took pictures.
Mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Daddy's working. Get out.
I'm listening to I got my headphones on. I'm listening to Lauryn Hill, and I'm wearing my luchador mask and just mowing the lawn.
Oh, do you listen to music while you work? Just a side one.
Yeah, sometimes I do. It's a toss-up between podcasts and music. I listen to a lot of politics and news. Sometimes
I would have never known.
Also while wearing the luchador mask.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'll sit and I'll listen to music, some old stuff, some newer stuff. That Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack is fucking hot.
Oh, it's so good.
It really is.
I love the trend of superhero movies getting their own albums with music inspired by the movie.
Yes.
Go back to was it 89, Prince's album for Batman?
Yes.
Because didn't they ask him to like write one song or something? He goes, no, here's a whole album.
Yeah.
Prince was unstoppable.
Yeah. And he turns it in, and what are you gonna do? Say no?
Yeah. Party Man, that is a fantastic number.
It is.
Now I'm so excited to think about Jack Nicholson. Let me get my mask.
All right.
Speaking of masks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. In the upcoming question, we're going to get to see Vic Sage in other time periods. So far, we've seen the modern question for issue 1. We've also seen the Western question.
Yes.
As these are pretty different settings, does something like that change your process, or of all the settings, which one is your favorite to work with? Or if you're not done, which one are you most excited to do? If you can't say which one you're most excited for, just say the issue number.
Okay. Not done. I really like that grim and gritty stuff, but I got to say the cowboy stuff it's so different, and I tried to make it different. And I like cowboy stuff too, Mm-hmm. Because it's a different mood, it's a different theme, it's a different. It's like so close you could touch it, but it's so far that you can still interpret it in different ways. I mean, I'm probably not describing my thoughts well enough, but yeah, I like the cowboy stuff. It's just a lot of fun. It's bright, but it's still like moody and it's still easy on the eyes, and it's just fun stuff. Cowboy stuff is always fun.
I have been saying Western question in my head for a little while. It's a good one. Western question.
Yeah.
So what types of tools do you use, and do you have any specific brands that you go towards? I know you probably work digitally mostly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm using Photoshop on an iMac with a Cintiq. I got to say the Kyle Webster brushes have changed my whole way of working. Those brushes are fantastic. Kyle Webster put together just a bunch of custom brushes a couple of years back, I think. And I bought them just on a lark. I usually just make my own brushes, but I'm like, oh, these are interesting, and I don't have to sit around and tinker with, different images and textures and stuff. Let me check these out. And I checked them out. Holy shit, they're fucking fantastic.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into those brushes. So I have a Procreate on my iPad, and I'm just like going through. I'm like, There's just too much to. It's a lot of like sensory overload on it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I do them in batches. It's like 3 or 4 brushes at a time where I'll discover them. And I've got them all. They're all in there. I haven't edited any of them out. They're all just sitting there. The ink box brushes, the paint box brush, they're all there. The screen tone brushes. And they're just sitting there just waiting for me to discover them. And every couple of months, I'll discover like 2, 3, 4 new brushes, and I'll work with those. And then again, a few months later, another 3, 4 new brushes, work with those. And, you know, those, you'll see them in the books. Like you'll see them just pop up out of nowhere one day on like right in the middle of an arc even. I don't even give a shit. I'll just start using them. Like I know
this goes right here. It just goes right here. In the little corner.
I know I should be more consistent considering, you know, they put all these together in a trade. But yeah, I find a brush and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna use this. You know? So
that's fair.
I just jump in. I'm like, nah, screw it. They won't notice. Sometimes they do notice. And they're like, hey, where'd this come from?
Sorry, it was the mask.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
The masks made me do it.
Like, no, just trying something different. No, you're imagining it. It's fine. It's fine. Just leave it.
At least it's not like the rest of it.
Yeah.
I think you're just, you know, it's just a smudge on the page.
Yeah. It's a happy accident.
What is a positive trend or something in the industry you would like to see more of?
I think there's a lot of good stuff going on right now. I think there is. I love the lean into creating new characters that are more gender and ethnically diverse. I think that only expands the content, the industry, the workforce, the creativity. I also think that there are a lot of publishers, and I'd like to see more of this, a lot of publishers starting to lean into different distribution methods outside of the diamond structure. Yeah. You know, I've spoken to some people, some publishers, and they've expressed interest in doing things outside of that. I think that's great. I think it can reach new markets. Anything that reaches new markets and brings in new readers, because you know the readers are they're getting older. We're not bringing enough in. So anything we can do to invite more readers in, whether it's through representation or through getting books and content in places other than, you know, mainstream comic shops. And the comic shops have their place. I love comic shops. There's such a sense of community in most of them, but not everyone can get to them, you know, and I always find it's easier to sell something to someone when they're there at the place where they sell it, as opposed to having them go find the place where they sell it.
Yeah, I like the I really love the I guess they're like teen books and kid books that DC has been doing, and they have them in regular bookstores, and they sell pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel had a lot of success with a lot of their all ages books in the book market. Even some of the more mainstream younger characters, like Aranya, and even when she went into Spider-Girl and Young Allies and Nomad for a while, Pet Avengers, then the digest size books and trades that they were doing from Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, Marvel Adventures Marvel Adventures, you know, that line.
And Squirrel Girl does pretty well in trade at like book fairs and things like that, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, then there was the whole Iceman thing where Iceman still sold so well as a trade.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. You know, all that stuff, it's all cumulative. Even if it's a drop in the bucket, as long as it's a drop in the bucket and not out of the bucket, I think it's something worth pursuing.
Yeah. So, how long did it take for you to develop a signature style, both artistically and literally?
think I think that if I were to stop evolving, I would probably just wind up being, like my time in this business would be done. I don't know that I have a signature style. Maybe that's for others to define. I really try to see what some other people are doing that I think are interesting. I try to look at illustrators, what they're doing or what they've done, depending on if they're alive or not. And see if there's something I can adapt or emulate, even in some respects. I try to make different parts of different things my own. I do it unapologetically. I think all my influences I probably wear on my sleeve. The thing is, though, that I'll work different styles across different things. Like New Mutants looks way different than The Question, and it's still, the bill is still in the mix.
Yeah, I was thinking about that way to ask that, because Nightwing is very different than the previews we've seen for The Question as well.
Right. Yeah, Nightwing was different from The Question, different from New Mutants, different from Batman Beyond. Way different than Planet Hulk or Avengers when I was on those books. Different than Captain Marvel Miss Marvel when I was on that book, or even Captain Marvel when I was on that book. I try to find a different way to work. I don't want to say every book, because that would be exhausting. But I try to pick out different things that I think would work better on one book or one artist or something, that just to make that a little more unique and interesting, even just for me to work on. I want it to be unique and interesting. I think if I did the same thing on every book, I think after a while I'd get bored and I'd want to chop my thumbs off. So, just to keep myself interested, I'll try to do things a little differently. Like Nightwing was a great experiment for me because it pushed me in a different direction, and I got to think about color in a different way than I had like when I was doing Detective Comics before Nightwing.
Yeah.
Right. Or even Miss Marvel before that, So that was way different than anything I had done at that point. And I think now The Question and that New Mutants book, those are way different than what I was doing on Nightwing.
I do want to say before the next question, I love the way you made Nightwing's symbol pop.
Thank you.
I don't think I like anyone drawing that suit as much as I like you doing it. Like that color was just like, it was just there. It was like,
thank you.
Wow.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
All the compliments. That's what we're about.
Yeah. We're good hype men. Is there a character that you haven't had the chance to work on that you're dreaming of?
I was thinking about that, and Daredevil is my favorite character, right? Daredevil, Nightwing. I love those street level guys. Punisher, I like. I've worked on Punisher. I've done a little bit of Daredevil stuff, although not a run. So if the question was, what character would you like to have a run on, like a significant run, I would say Daredevil. But the character that I haven't really worked on, except for maybe a cover or two, is, well, actually, no, not ever. Ghost Rider, either classic Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, or Daniel Ketchum, Ghost Rider. Danny Ketch, sorry. Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider. I would love to work on either of those two iterations of the character. I've never done them before. I love fire. I love painting fire.
See, in my head, I'm seeing the fire like I would I'm comparing it to the Nightwing symbol, and I'm like, ooh, just bright and there and like especially when it gets to all that black, it's gonna be like piercing.
Yeah. I would definitely make that look like it was just like made of light and just dancing, licking flames. I got to work on the Demon miniseries with Andrew Constant and Brad Walker, and that was a lot of fun because it's a lot of hellfire. I love hellfire. I love fire of any kind. So it was all these pages filled with these flames and just, it's licking up and around objects and stuff and, big explosions. I love all that shit. So, if I had a run on Ghost Rider, that's what I would do. Just a lot of big, dancing flames and make it look nuts.
So,
with Will's Protasio. Fuck, that'd be awesome. I like Will's. Will's is awesome. Yeah. Sorry.
Is there? Hey, listen, that's your passion.
Thanks.
Breaking places, fire,
masks,
luchador masks.
I think this is going to be the most interesting interview we've done yet. Oh. So, is there anything you ever want to talk about in interviews that you never really get a chance to, like questions people don't ask or anything like that?
I'm pretty opinionated about everything in comics. So there's like a whole slew of shit that I've never been asked in interviews. I couldn't pick any one thing though, but I've got thoughts on, the business end, on publishing, because I got my start on that end, right? Mm-hmm. I've also got opinions on freelancing and the dangers of freelancing and the high points of freelancing. The things I love about it, how comics have shaped my life. I go on about all that stuff. So
that kind of reminds me of how when we first interviewed you for our little Keystone episode, we also interviewed Dennis Cowan. He said unions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any of those particular things that you wanted to chat a little bit about, or?
Well, let me say about unions, just because you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for there to be some sort of union. I was actually involved in some conversations about that stuff a few years ago. One of the things that would stand in the way of that is you have a lot of fans who read comics, and a lot of them have this notion that, I would love to work on this character. I would do it for free.
Yeah.
That really fucks it up. A lot of people just trying to get into the business, and they don't understand that it's a business, and you have to be able to sustain yourself in this business. And you come in and, a publisher offers you like a really bad rate and you take it, and then it's an uphill climb to get out of that rate. Or you start out in this business and you take anything that comes along and you build your working relationship based on those projects, and it's an uphill climb to get out of that mindset, that pigeonhole. Whether it's, hey, I'll take whatever you got. Then they give you a book and say, hey, I need this tomorrow. And you stay up all night and you work double time and you skip meals and you don't sleep and you have the worst experience personally, but you get it done and it's good enough that it can go to print. And the editor says, hey, this is great. Not that the work is great. It's great that you got it in. That's the problem. You don't hear that. When you're trying to get into the business and you get your first shot or your second shot or whatever, or you're just really early on in your career, you don't hear that distinction. Hey, you got it in. That's great. Much different than, hey, this looks amazing. Or, hey, I like what you did here on this page or on this panel. That's a different kind of compliment. And you start falling into that. You start believing it. Mm-hmm. And you start thinking that this is the way it's done. And then you wind up in the hospital. Because you don't sleep, you don't eat, you sacrifice yourself for comics.
Yeah, you hear a lot about that out of the manga industry in Japan.
Oh, fuck,
yeah.
Listen, it's happened to me.
I wrote a paper on that.
It's happened to me. I spent, started working at Marvel, with Marvel 1996, doing a couple of freelance, covers and things like that. Started really getting into it 97, early 97. Started rolling some interiors very early on in my career. This is around March. Get in, start doing color guides, things like that. Then get hired by Marvel Knights, start doing Doctor Strange, Black Panther, things like that. Joe takes over Marvel. I go into Marvel proper again, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Cable. At one point, between Marvel and like Image and maybe even DC, I was doing roughly 6 books a month, the equivalent of 6 books a month. That is not healthy.
Mm-mm.
So it lasted for a while. I could manage for the first few years. My wife was working. We had 1 kid. I'm working at home, whatever. It all works. We moved out here to the suburbs in 2001. February 2002, I get sick. I get so fucking sick. Suffering upper respiratory infection, exhaustion. Doctor said I wouldn't make it. I'm in a coma. In a coma for 3 weeks in February 2002. Sacrificed it all for comics. It was not a good thing. I learned a very valuable lesson. I scared the shit out of my wife and kids. And I decided ever since that February in 2002, I would build in a better work-life balance. And I do that now. As the kids have gotten older, they don't need me as much. I work a tiny bit more, maybe an extra hour. But I take weekends off. I make dinner most nights. I train martial arts. I make sure I have time for myself. I make sure I have time for my family. And I don't put myself in that position ever again. I still work my ass off during office hours, but when it's not office hours and work's done, but I'm done working by no later than 7 o'clock. That's the latest I'll push it. And then an hour at the end of the day, like around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, just for administrative stuff. I find that to be usually enough. Then I'm done for the day.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you learned that lesson.
Yeah. And I needed to learn it when I learned it because I was young enough that I would pull through it okay.
Yeah.
And it's I talk about mentorship a lot. Not just in this discussion with you guys, but I talk about it at conventions. I talk about it online with, some of my peers. And I think the younger talent coming up needs to hear stories like that so that they know that this isn't everything. This is a lot of fun. And this means a lot to me to be able to do this because, like I said, I get to work at home. I'd never miss my kids' stuff. I see my wife. I got 2 dogs I love. I have a nice house, cars, whatever. All that shit is gravy. But the important thing is I'm here with my family. I don't miss anything. And I still get to do what I love. Nice work-life balance. It can go really bad real fast, though, if you pour too much into it. If you just ignore everything, that shit ain't fun. Not at the end.
I really hope this finds someone who needs to hear all that. Because you never think about that stuff.
No. And listen, that's why unions would be great to prevent that kind of thing. I busted my ass because, listen, I grew up poor, right? I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s, 70s and 80s, right? I knew what it was like to be poor. I knew what it was like to miss opportunities. So when I got my first break on interiors on an issue of Deadpool, I took it. I got the job on a Thursday. It was due Monday. But it was color guides. It was doable. And I had my supplies. So it was doable. I did it. I put a lot of work into it. I stayed up late nights. Not all-nighters, but late nights. Getting it all done so that it looked decent. Got it in. And then everything started snowballing from there. Listen, early 2000s, I was one of the more popular colorists at Marvel. And, I'm very thankful for that position that I was in. But it led me to make some bad decisions. I put work ahead of a lot of different things, which was not smart. And I made that the priority because I figured, you know what? I have the chance now to make some money. I'm going to make the money now because I don't know how long this will last. And I learned that if I just go slow and steady, I'll win the race. I don't have to run a sprint the whole way through. It's a marathon. Your career, if you do it right, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, put in your time, but not all your time.
Right. Yeah, there's got to be a balance. Unions would be great, would help that a lot. It's got to be a balance.
Wow.
I will say, where we left off on unions in my conversations with these other professionals was that comic authors and maybe even illustrators, although not particularly colorists, letterers, or inkers per se, if you're a penciler or an illustrator or writing comics, you could probably get into SAG or some other screenwriters union on a technicality. But it doesn't really put you in a position of power because, again, you have all these other people who are not in a union coming up saying, I'll work for free or I'll take whatever shitty rate you want to give me. And I have that fight with people all the time coming up. They'll take like $20 a page or whatever. And I'm like, $20 a page, this is the problem. Those $20 a page offers that people are taking coming up, the people offering that amount of money, they're devaluing the skill set. They're devaluing the work, the job. The people taking those are devaluing themselves. And as much as a rising tide lifts all boats, if that boat sinks, we're all on that boat. So I would like for people to understand that if you think that you're worth that $20 a page, maybe you're not ready for work. Why don't you work on your craft and hone your craft until you can get to the $50 a page or $70 a page or a little better from there, instead of just jumping on like these little things that, and there's a place for them. If someone, is just looking for character designs or a couple of pages for a pitch and, they can only do 20 a page, hopefully they can promise more later on. And stuff like that, like I said, definitely has its place. But you can't sustain a career on $20 a page or $30 a page. It's really tough. And all that leads to is you overworking yourself and winding up in the hospital, possibly in a coma for 3 weeks. Hooked up on tubes and being intubated. Not fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah.
So as we near the end of the interview, I just wanted to see what you're working on now. Is there anything coming up that we should keep our eyes peeled for?
There are a couple of really interesting 2099 books that Marvel is producing. Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four 2099, Doom 2099. I finished those recently. The Doom 2099 book I was really into working on. That was a lot of fun. The Fantastic Four book is the Fantastic Four 2099. Such a great story. That was a lot of fun too. And I had some great conversations with the writer about that. She knocked it out of the park. Who was writing that one? Carla Pacheco.
Okay.
I was talking to her. I tend to read the script as I go along in the story. Usually, scene by scene, not necessarily page by page. I'll read scene by scene, and then as I go through each page, I'll reread each page corresponding to the artwork. But by the end of that Fantastic Four 2099 book, I was so shocked by the ending. I thought it was brilliant because it's a one-shot introducing these characters, and I'm digging it because the characters are visually fun. And then it gets to the end and my jaw dropped. I was like, wow, it was so well done. And I was very surprised, even though I had the script in front of me, I was really surprised by the end. Same thing for the Doom 2099 book. And then aside from that, I got The Question, obviously. Still working on Batman Beyond, which is a lot of fun. Supergirl Annual. An issue of Supergirl, issue 36 also. And some short stories for those Walmart books that DC puts out. Batwoman, Shazam, Captain Marvel.
Nice.
Whatever you want to call them. Yeah, Harley Quinn. Yeah, some good stuff.
I'm really excited for that Fantastic Four now. I am not a Fantastic Four kind of guy at all. I love Doom, though. Big Doom guy.
Yeah.
I've always liked Doom 2099, so...
Yeah, that was one of my favorite 2099 books. Doom, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man. I like those a lot.
Yeah.
The 2099 books.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2099 was one of my first comics, but I was only like 4 when I got it, so it scared the hell out of me.
Isn't that the best, though, when a book scares the shit out of you?
Yeah. Well, not when you're 4.
Well, no.
And the guy's got like red eyes and
hey, it stuck with you.
It did.
Listen, I've been influenced by more comics that have scared the shit out of me than anything else. Like, growing up, I'm a bit older than you guys, right? So I was growing up reading New Mutants when it came out, Moon Knight when it came out. Those books scared the shit out of me. Frank Miller's Daredevil scared the shit out of me. Elektra Assassin scared the shit out of me. The original Question scared the shit out of me. Dr. Zero scared the shit out of me. I don't know if you guys know Dr. Zero. It was one of the epic books in a Shadowline imprint. And Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz worked on that. That book fucking blew me away. I love that book.
I don't know what comic books have ever scared me. There was an Alan Moore Cthulhu thing that I don't know if it scared me so much as it traumatized me.
Right.
Final Crisis. I don't know if it scared me because it was scary or it scared me because I was just so utterly confused.
Yeah, Dan was confused by that and Batman Rest in Peace at the same time.
Okay.
I love Grant Morrison, but I can't fucking wrap my head around it issue by issue.
I think Grant stuff needs to be consumed as a whole work.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It reads
unless
better
it's
that way.
The Klaus stuff. That's always fun.
Right. Yeah.
So, where can people find you?
At home.
Please don't tell them where that is.
No, I rarely go out. I do conventions. I'm actually starting to get a little bit more into doing conventions and getting comfortable in that setting. Listen, I force myself to do these conventions. I love them. I love meeting fans. I love talking to people who are enthusiastic about the industry and the medium, and whatever genres they're into, whether it's superheroes or westerns or detective stuff or sword and sorcery, fantasy stuff. I love talking to anyone about something that they're excited about and passionate about. Conventions are a great place to do that. I find that it's a pretty safe place for people to just be themselves and open up without being ridiculed. I know me growing up, you couldn't read comics on the train, on the subway, because you'd get your ass kicked. Didn't read comics in school a whole lot because, I'd have gotten my ass kicked. So I used to run home with them after school and read them in my room before I started my homework. As long as I had my homework done before my parents came home, I knew I was all right. So before homework, read 1 or 2. Before bed, read 1 or 2. If I had any extra time, I would just sit and draw. Right? That was like my existence. That and TV. TV was a big babysitter for me. So I love conventions. I go to the New York show every year. I'll go to any convention I'm invited to because I take a lot of the money that I make from conventions and I donate it to charities. At New York Comic Con, especially, what I'll do is every year I go, I will donate half of my sales to whatever charity. The last one I donated to the Johnson Cancer Center Foundation for cancer research. Before that, I donated half my sales to RAIN, which is an organization that helps survivors of sexual abuse and assault. And before that, I donated half my sales to Hurricane Maria relief efforts in Puerto Rico. So being able to do that and do something good with the experience helps motivate me to go to those shows. So although I'm done for the year, I am considering doing MegaCon in Tampa. And of course, I'll be at New York Comic Con. I will probably be at Baltimore this next year. I'm thinking of alternating between Baltimore and Philly, every other year.
Well, luckily we could be at both. Jake's Maryland, I'm Philly.
Nice.
I do want to go to Baltimore's because it just keeps getting bigger.
It does.
Yeah, I always have friends that volunteered there multiple times, and they're always like, Jake, why aren't you here? I'm like, I don't know.
I think
because I was going to school just like a few miles up north, so I could have just taken a bus. I was like,
oh,
we maybe next year we can try to apply for press passes, and they'll take us seriously too.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I had such a great time.
You can find us at supersunspod.com, on Twitter at DCSupersons. Support us on patreon.com/supersons. Catch us in maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. Same bad time, same bad channel.